Let's get some more now on the surface fleet review and bring in the Greens Defence Spokesperson David Shoebridge. I'll be joined by Andrew Hastie in a moment for the Coalition's perspective. But first to yours, what do you make of it? More than $11 billion additional in funds across the next 10 years, and they're going to expedite the arrival of some frigates to the later part of this decade. Do you welcome that?
First of all, I think people should be highly sceptical of Defence's capacity to deliver any of this. And in fact, it's a pretty remarkable outcome. Labor has spent 2 years in office doing this review. During those 2 years, failed to make any of the hard decisions. The obvious one would have been to scrap the Hunter Frigates project. They're now 2 years in. And what have they said? They've said to Defence, well, they can keep their $45 billion for the failed Hunter Frigate project, but instead of delivering 9, they only have to deliver 6, but keep the money. Here's another 10 or $11 billion that's been thrown at them for an as yet unidentified vessel. The offshore patrol vessels, which have been a disaster from day one, they get to keep, but only have to deliver half the number. And what we're told is they plan to have 26 boats in the water by the mid to late 2040s. Now, this is the same government that told us through the Defence Strategic Review that we have a 5-year window to address the threats. I don't know how coming up with a program that might put something in the water in the late 2040s is in any way consistent with the Defence Strategic Review. And I don't know how they expect the same people who so comprehensively stuffed up the Hunter Frigate project, you know, a boat that costs billions and has no identifiable purpose, how they expect the same team who came up with the Hunter Frigates project to deliver any of this. It's a pretty remarkable situation Labor's found themselves in.
Flashpoints in the region, the tension in the region, that this will all be too little too late?
Well, if you accept the government's rhetoric, and I think there's a lot of reasons to challenge it, but if you accept the government's rhetoric, you accept what's happened, the statements in the Defence Strategic Review, they say there's a 5-year window to get Australia's Defence Force up and running. This surface fleet review talks about having something done by the mid to late 2040s. Now, you can't say both things at the same time and be credible. And in the meantime, what has Labor done? Spent 2 years failing to cancel a $45 billion disaster, which is the Hunter Frigates project. Now what they've said is, well, they're going to double down on that. The Defence will still get $45 billion for 6 Hunter frigates. They only have to build 6, not 9. And still nobody can identify what the purpose of those Hunter frigates will be. Hugely expensive, very large, not fit for purpose, but somehow we're spending $45 billion on them. And that has not been explained by Defence Minister Marles.
Is this just the perennial challenge of every government, that defence projects are massive, they run over budget and over time? It seems, for as long as I've been watching this space, that is just the reality that we deal with when it comes to defence projects. No, I don't think anybody could identify a time where Defence has been so incapable of delivering even the basics. Because let's not forget, the Hunter Frigates project never even had a competitive tender process. It was always just a sweetheart deal with the UK manufacturer for a boat that hadn't even been properly designed, let alone tested. And Secretary Moriarty, the senior parts of the defence bureaucracy and in Navy who got us in that mess, they're now saying to us, or the Defence Minister is saying to us, somehow they can navigate us out of this mess. One of the key problems is no one's ever been held to account for the mess we're in. And we're going to the same people to try and navigate a pathway through. Now, if anyone thinks that's going to succeed, well, you know, I've got a bridge that I can sell you. Do you, just finally, when you look at the arrival of the group of asylum seekers evading any detection, reaching Australian mainland, are you worried then about our ability to protect our borders if that can happen despite the many millions, the hundreds of millions that goes into Operation Sovereign Borders, and they were unable to pick up this boat?
Well, again, you know, you have a look at what the political statements are, what the rhetoric and what the resources are and what the reality is. But I think we should also be clear, you know, this is a tiny handful of people who have been identified and pose no meaningful risk to Australia. And yet it becomes this national
disaster case. Meanwhile, burning $45 billion to build 6 ships that nobody can identify a purpose for, that kind of just slips through by the same government. I think we should get perspectives about what the real risks to Australia are. And at the moment, one of the real risks is how there's no accountability in defence. And every time they stuff up, we get an announcement like today, here's another $10 billion. Let's hope it gets fixed. That's, I think, a real risk to Australia's defence, that absolute lack of accountability.
Green Senator and Defence Spokesman David Shoebridge, thanks, appreciate it.